can say this about season 4. It is going to be so worth the wait.
Nowhere, actually.
A wrecking machine. I'll take it.
I'm still figuring out my own style, Mark, actually.
It was great.
It took 2 minutes and I had to answer, yeah, go for it.
Are you sure you're not interested? I was like, don't ask me again. I can't refuse it twice.
In Holland, in one country.
Here is the YouTube.
She got me so deep and underwater, and I drank it. That's not good.
You'll try chocolate from South Africa to Australia to England. It will taste so different.
So it's been really amazing that it's been with you after 10 long years.
The first title we were messing around with, we were going to call it Lockdown.
Yeah.
And then after a while, we actually kind of realised, God, this is dragging on a lot longer than what we thought it was going to be.
I didn't want to give people a reminder.
Our bass player has a band. We were like, let's go on the road, man. But and then it just came to a screeching halt.
We had to work on like how I was biting the carrot. Like I had to do it very purposefully, you know? You didn't want a weak bite, but you didn't want a bite that was too strong.
Someone jumps the stage and one of our techs just body slams him to the ground and you can see me kick him.
I guess I was too distracted. I was having too much fun. I've heard bad things.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, got it. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
With the barriers of fate, continuing to lose grip on all that surrounds me. Now I'm staring myself in the face.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington. Thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday, the 13th of April, 2021. And it's great to be back, even though it's only been a week. It feels like it's been a lot longer since I did my last live stream because I had to, I chose to take a break for a few days and was still doing other media work. And I'm still doing other media work, including the Seattle International Film Festival, which is going on. And I'm up to my eyeballs in films and things of that nature. But I also wanted to make sure that I didn't have any kind of side effects from my vaccine shot last week, and everything, knock on wood, has been fine. So I haven't turned into the Toxic Avenger or anything like that. Just a little bit disappointing in some ways. But again, I'm glad to be back, and we're hitting the ground running. So I've got a wonderful guest today that we're going to be doing an interview with shortly. And just for everyone just to know that if you follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram, that's where I post everything first. And then I start to migrate things over to places like Facebook. Well, actually, it's basically Facebook, and then obviously here on YouTube and Twitch. And so coming up, I have 2 more live streams tomorrow on Wednesday. I have 2 more on Thursday. There's 2 more on Friday. Somewhere in there, I have to squeeze in the film reviews for the festival. And then I just confirmed one for Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week. So yeah, things are going to be busy, but I'd have it no other way. I enjoy talking to so many of the artistic guests. I'm so grateful for the time that they give me. And yeah, if you follow things on my Instagram page, that's where you'll know exactly what's coming up, the times, and all that kind of thing. And I just posted 2 more this morning. So let's get to things, as my guest has limited time today, and I'm really excited to talk to her. My guest today is the vocalist for the hardcore metallic punk band Capra. Their full-length album, In Transmission, is coming out on April 23rd via Blacklight Media and Metal Blade Records. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Crow Lotus.
Hi.
Hi, Crow. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time. Well, this morning or afternoon for you.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got to be exciting that there's been a lot of momentum built up, and obviously, with last year and the pandemic kind of putting a hold for pretty much everybody, that your album's finally getting ready to get released a week from Friday. So, how are you feeling right now?
I don't think it's gonna feel real until it actually happens, because it's been so long that we've been sitting on this guy, forever.
Yeah, and so can you kind of give me some background? Did you guys finish this like the end of 2019, the recording and all that, or was it timeline?
Yeah, I think it was. It's so hard to like, especially with like how the last year has went. Like time is not real right now to me, but like I think it was 2019 we finished it, and then after we had finished it, we were kind of like going through the whole process of, figuring out if Metal Blade was going to really want us. And then like, after all that, we had to kind of figure out if we wanted to drop this one independently or with Metal Blade. And obviously we wanted to do it with Metal Blade. So we've been sitting on it for a couple of years now at this point.
Okay. Yeah. That's for like people watching this now or watching this in the future. That's gotta be incredibly tough to have your product done. You're ready to go. And then, nope, you're not going to be doing anything with this for the year.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of some of the film people that I've talked to. They'll work on something and then they have to go promote it 3 years later when it's actually done and ready to go on. And they're like, yeah,
right.
So what? I remember doing that film, but I don't know if I liked it.
Right.
So what was the recording period time like then, if you can remember back to the 2019 time? So how many months did it take or weeks did it take to record the album?
Recording of the album, thankfully, it was pretty streamlined just because we all, by that point, had been like, we had been playing the music for so long and practicing it for so long that we knew it like the back of our hand. And really, when you go into record and you know what you're doing, it takes no time flat. As long as you're recording with somebody who's like, about their stuff and kind of knows like how to stay organized. So I want to say it probably only took like a month, maybe a month or two to record the entire thing. As far as writing, on the other hand, that one took a couple of years.
Okay. All right. So, and in terms of the writing part, do you handle all of the lyrics for the songs?
Yes. All the lyrics are mine.
Okay. So can you kind of let people know what are some of the topics that were percolating in your brain that made it onto the album?
Probably the most prevalent thing that I like to talk about is mental health. Just like the way it affects different people and the way that it affects people who especially already feel kind of helpless in capitalist society. So that's the main topic, I think. And then another topic that I discuss is my experience just as a woman in general. And I think that's something that's going to paint a little bit of every album we write. Because that's a part of me that I can't separate.
Right, for sure. And I think it's fantastic that you're bringing those lyrics into the music and then getting it out to the audience and other people out there. I've talked to several guests that have been real strong proponents about mental health awareness, and that it comes in all shapes and sizes, all disciplines.
Right.
And sometimes people, especially for bands that play on the harder edge of things, people tend to think, oh, they're just these wild, crazy people that don't really have that type of issue, if you want to call it that. And it's like, they're human beings too. They might be working jobs and have family issues, and could be things that stem back from childhood. Who knows?
Absolutely.
And have you partnered with any kind of organizations or done benefit shows of anything related to this?
We did do some, we did a benefit show. I can't even tell you when it was. I guess at this point it was, it had to have been over a year ago now, but it was to raise funds for, I believe it was like sober living. I think it was a sober living house, because we're all real huge advocates for like, I don't know what the word would be, like helping people get out of that kind of like situation, addiction, stuff like that. We have donated to certain like POC organizations that are fighting for like certain things as far as like equal rights regarding law enforcement, things like that. I couldn't tell you the exact name, unfortunately, but just because it's been so long. But I would like to partner definitely with some sort of mental health organization. That's something that I absolutely want to look into, just for like touring in the future and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, no, that I think that would be an amazing thing to see, especially with bands and that partnering with any kind of organization that they're passionate about, and trying to get the word out that much further, and perhaps having more virtual talks about the subject matter and everything else. So. And I'm just curious, like when I was first listening to the music, it is such to me, a hybrid style of things. It's not strictly hardcore. It's not strictly punk or metal.
Right.
There's a lot of different influences coming together, which I think makes for a really unique sound.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is that kind of each member kind of has certain things that they love to listen to, or where's that kind of come from?
It's so, every time somebody kind of like asks me what kind of music, like, would you consider like this band? I can't even tell you, because I really don't know how I would categorize it, just because, like, exactly how you said, it is a huge hybrid of a bunch of different kinds of things. And we do, for the most part, come from a similar musical background, but just as far as, like, for example, a lot of my vocals are inspired by like hardcore thrash or just like old classic thrash. I know that our bassist is like a big fan of just like straight up punk music, like, old school punk stuff like that. Our guitarist and our drummer, really like huge fans of just straight up. I mean, they listen to just about everything, but they really like a lot of hardcore. So that's why we have a lot of these little elements that are coming together. It's not exactly just like one specific type of genre.
Yeah, and I think it's great. I mean, again, when you put it all together, I think every band has, their members that listen to different types of music, but this doesn't necessarily translate into what they produce.
Right.
And in this case, it does. I mean, when I was just listening to some of it again this morning, it was like, God, that sounds so heavy on some of these things. It sounds really metal to me. And then your vocals come in all over the top, and it's kind of like, well, that sounds really hardcore to me when I hear these things.
Well, and it's so funny because some people, I think, are so, I don't want to say shocked, but they're just so maybe uncomfortable about my vocal style in this particular kind of music. And I think in a lot of ways, that's a really good thing. It's not for everybody, but I think that I really do intend to kind of be more unique in that way. I just couldn't, as much as I would love to, pay homage to like a lot of these, a lot of my predecessors in this particular genre, I just couldn't, just because my vocals are like, I'm a small woman, like I can't sound like that. So I kind of just do what I can that's best for me. And thankfully, a lot of people like that.
Yeah, I think, again, when I first heard the music, which was, I don't know, maybe a week ago, so I'm definitely a newer fan into things, that it just jumped out of the device that was actually this old laptop here to my left that I was listening to things on. And I'm kind of like, what is this? Because again, like you were just saying, when your vocal comes in, it's kind of, it might be a shock to somebody, it might be a surprise. And for me, it was a surprise in a good way, because it made me want to perk up and like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so, like, how did you develop your vocal style?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's funny because I think about it, and I've only been a vocalist for a few years. Prior to this, with all my like previous music that I played, I was a bassist, and I only did like a few backing vocals, things like that. I never really was like in the front. So this is all a really new thing for me. I think I just the main thing is I just learned how to breathe first, and then everything else just kind of fell into place. I just kind of let my vocals do their own thing, I really don't know how to describe it beyond that.
Okay. And so does that mean, like, when you were, pre-pandemic, of course, when you were doing shows, were you having, nights after a show where your voice was completely thrashed then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, whenever your adrenaline is pumping, sometimes you're not thinking about how to do things the right way. And so you might just accidentally push yourself in the wrong direction a little bit. And then it's like, I'm going to pay for it the next day.
Yeah, no, I've had a chance to talk to so many different vocalists and of different styles, and just hearing what they have to go through, especially when they're on the road. And I'm sure once we get things, to a place where bands can tour, every state and every country, that, you guys will be out on the road, killing it with every audience. And that's when it becomes very real. It's like, yeah, I can't do these things after a night, because then I can't.
Exactly.
I won't have a voice for the show, and then that's going to completely fuck us up. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, there was one vocalist I was talking to, and she was like, "Yeah, the boys were out partying, and then I was in bed by 10 because I was coming down with a cold, and we had a gig the next day. So I have to have that extra step of taking care of myself versus them. And they could be sick and still play their guitar, and maybe still play their drums, but I can't sing." If I've got snot running out of my nose and my throat's all sore and everything.
Right, and God forbid somebody takes a video and it ends up on YouTube. So
exactly.
Immortalized.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when people start making all these comments, and they have no clue what was going on with the particular person, because you don't know, but yeah, oh, I saw that video and they didn't sound very good or whatever. It's like, yeah, because they barely made it through the show because maybe the entire band was sick, having the stuff go around the band. And so, you correct me if I'm wrong. You joined the band. Was it maybe roughly 2 years ago?
It was about 2 years.
Okay, and like you said, you were playing bass in other bands prior to that.
Right.
So what got you initially into music as a younger person?
I think a lot of it had to do with I have a brother that I'm very close to in age, and we kind of just influenced each other the whole time growing. We always wanted to be better than the other one at what they were doing. So my brother was the one that originally got into music prior to me. And then it was like, okay, well, now I have to too, because I have to do it better than him, right? And then we ended up playing in a band together, and I just kind of fell in love with it from there.
Okay, so was everything pretty much self-taught, or did you take any lessons at any point on an instrument or anything else?
I've never taken any lessons. Everything was, for the most part, self-taught, but my brother did have to help me out, when I was like 16, here and there, learning how to do certain things.
That's cool. I have an older brother, and he plays music as well, and I'm a musician myself, so we didn't have the competition thing. We had more of the like synergy thing, which probably still happened with your brother as well. When you're like, you don't even have to look at each other; just kind of know like where you're going to stop or where you're going to go next with this music.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. That's how we are. I'm mostly joking about the whole competition thing. We do actually have a pretty strong bond, and we're very close musically. So.
Okay, and I just saw that the band was posting the vinyl that's coming out for the album.
Right.
And so I love seeing, obviously, any kind of physical media. I've been doing a lot of interviews with guests where they're saying, no, we want to do some merch, but right now we just have it on digital, which I understand. That's kind of where things are at right now. But me being an old fart, I like something in my hand. Mm-hmm. And so did you guys have any input into what's going to be released through Metal Blade and in terms of all the different merch stuff that's coming out?
As far as like, did we choose what kind of things we were going to sell?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We knew that we wanted, Tyler, our guitarist, mostly knew that we wanted like just a really cool collectible vinyl. That's like he collects vinyl. So that was something that he was like dead set on. Obviously, we came up with all of our designs for we didn't do them, but we contacted the person to do the designs for the album, the shirts and all that stuff. But yeah, for the most part, it's been kind of like a teamwork type thing. Metal Blade tells us what we probably should be doing, and then we tell them what we know we want to do. So it's a good balance.
Okay, no, that's awesome. And how did you guys get involved with Blacklight Media, which is Chris Santos's subsidiary label connected to Metal Blade?
Right. We got in contact with a guy named Matt Bacon, and he was like I don't want to say like manager, but maybe he did manage us a little bit, but he actually was helping us get in contact with a few of the labels I say a few, but he really only helped us get in contact with the one label that was the label that we knew we wanted. And that's basically how it went from there. Matt Bacon used to live in Louisiana, so that's how I think that's how we got in contact with him. I think he's in New York now, but I know that he does a lot of work for bands like that too. He's continuing to do that, so we just got lucky enough to get connected with him for sure.
Okay, yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, again, when I think back to Metal Blade, I think back to Metal Massacre 1, when I had the vinyl and everything, and had the misspelled Metallica hit the lights on it and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it goes way back. And I'm seeing there's a comment from, hi, Team Midoro. She's over in Japan. I don't listen to female vocal band basically because I'm an old school metalhead, but to me, her vocal, meaning you, is something else so cool and very emotional.
What a nice thing to say. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and she's totally looking forward to the album. Yeah, I think a lot of people are.
Awesome.
Hopefully you get it. So down in Louisiana or just down in the South, are things to a point where you can actually maybe play some shows once the album comes out, or worse? Where are things at down there?
So we're looking like a few months at least after the album release, I think by that point, that's whenever we're a little bit more confident that we're not like, and by that point most of the band is already vaccinated. By that point, we're all going to have been vaccinated. So, and I think that hopefully by that point, most of the people in the audience will also have been vaccinated. It's so hard to like look into the future and, know exactly what's going to happen because it's just things are just so crazy right now. But like I said, hopefully projecting it at the beginning of like the summer, we'll be able to start doing that.
Okay.
Locally, at least.
Right. And again, you're right that there's still this question mark over for bands being able to tour, even if it's just regionally, let alone all across the nation. And hopefully it gets to a point where, unfortunately, here in the Northwest, on the West Coast, we probably are going to be the toughest area to tour because we're the most like on top of the. I was just mentioning to you before we went live that some of our counties already took a step back, so they don't. We're not Texas. Let's put it to you that way. And I'm not trying to disparage people.
No, I mean, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? That up here,
absolutely.
They're going to start clamping down quick. They're not going to say, well, fuck it.
Well, we got Texas on one side of us, and then on the other side, Alabama Alabama is doing the same thing. Sometimes I'm like, is it Mississippi, Alabama? I live right next door, and I can't even remember. But they opened up completely, too. So we're sandwiched right in the middle, and it's, we're probably going to do the same thing soon.
Yeah. It's like, I think I was talking to people at the beginning of this year doing these streams that this will be a year of transition. We just don't know what that transition really looks like. And we're right in the middle of it. Is the band even considering any kind of live stream thing in the meantime, or it's like, we don't want to do it that way?
So we did do the live stream thing with I don't know if you saw the Slay at Home Fest, but we did one of those. We really enjoyed taking part in that. We have gotten approached for other live stream things. The only problem is like being who we are, for whatever reason, we feel the need to overproduce the hell out of it. So like if we, for us, it's like a big thing. So we have to really put a lot of preparation into it. And I think right now we're a little bit more worried about just getting things together for the album release. And then after that, who's to say, I'm sure we have a lot more time to kind of be doing more things like that.
Okay. All right. With the music video for The Locust Preacher, what was that like in terms of shooting it and the ideas behind it, the themes behind it?
So I wrote Locust Preacher about the lyric side of it, about my experience, or kind of a generalization of my experiences with sleep paralysis. The video is kind of more of just like a theatrical rendition of that. As far as like the filming, I will say that you never expect how long it's going to take to get something like that done until you're doing it. And it's like, wow, 10 hours just flew by and we're not even halfway done, It does take a lot of work. And then especially with all the different people involved, trying to get everybody in one place at the same time, it's just like, can tend to be such a pain. But thankfully, whenever you're finally done getting it all together, it's just the most amazing feeling, especially getting to see the product of all that labor. It's just very rewarding for sure.
Yeah. Did you guys do something where you did like 2 videos back to back, so you have one in the can to put out later, or it's like we're gonna go back and film another one, another month here? Or
we did film, I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but we did film another one like a little kind of soon after. It wasn't like within the same like couple of weeks. Well, yeah, it was maybe a month later, but we're kind of sitting on that one for a little bit. As far as like future videos, it's kind of just like whenever we can fit them into our schedule, just because from the time that we start filming the video to the time that we have it done and finished editing, it's like about a month. I want to say it's like a 3-week turnover. So we usually try to get them done as soon as possible, so we're not rushing, but sometimes it's just like that's all that time will permit is for us to rush, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I totally understand when there's deadlines.
Right. Deadlines are deadlines.
Yeah, and there's nothing like trying to have deadlines when you're a creative person.
Right. I hear you. Yeah, exactly. It's like, how do I force myself to be inspired,
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I've found myself in that position, and sometimes it's kind of nice to when I get to the point of like, hey, I met that deadline, and I don't feel bad about what I produced. But on the other hand,
right.
If I only had another week, if I only had another day, sometimes.
Totally.
I wanted to kind of go back a little bit before we wrap things up. About you're talking earlier about your into like old school thrash and some other kinds of bands. So can you tell what are some of the bands that you were growing up on that you really like, or maybe still like today?
Right. Well, so not just talking about thrash, just as far as bands and older metal bands in general that I like a lot and have liked growing up. Judas Priest, I'm a huge fan. I like Slayer a lot. Like Tom Araya definitely influences a lot of my vocal style. Black Flag, I'm a huge fan. Same thing for Henry Rollins. I definitely take a lot of inspiration from him as well. I really like Death Angel. Gotta like rep my Filipinos. Love Death Angel. Megadeth, huge fan. Can't say the same for being influenced by his vocals though, just because I'm gonna let him do that himself. You know what I mean? And then of course I grew up listening to Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. Janis Joplin is actually a huge inspiration of mine as well, in a different kind of way. I tell people that like as far as delivery and the emotion behind what she's delivering, I'm hugely inspired by that, even though it's not, the same kind of vocal style.
Okay, that's bringing me back.
Oh yeah.
all of those artists that you mentioned, I grew up with the Priest and Maiden and Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer for sure.
Right.
All those kind of bands. And when you mentioned Death Angel, I still remember hearing the Ultraviolence for the first time, and I couldn't believe like how young they were. And
absolutely, with some babies.
Yeah, and you were mentioning being Filipino. So were you born and raised in Louisiana?
I was, yes. Yep.
Okay. What was life like being?
Well, I was born in Utah, but I was raised in Louisiana. So.
Okay. What was life like growing up being Filipino in Louisiana? I've never been down south ever, so I don't have no clue.
Right. Well, I will say that for me, for the most part, I think most people just, I don't think that most people assume that I am Filipino, especially since I dyed my hair a little bit lighter. They kind of just assume that I'm like just racially ambiguous or maybe even just white. I'm half white and half Filipina. But I will say that just witnessing how my mom experienced things and how people spoke to my mom in public was definitely affects a lot of kind of how I see the world today and how I write music, just because people were very unfair to her. And she's one of those people, she's got an accent. It's not a super heavy accent, but I find that people will like be really dramatic about how they can't understand her whenever they probably can, things like that. And definitely watching her get mistreated growing up was like a hugely kind of like traumatic part of my life, I guess. I'm laughing about it, but it's a really dark subject matter for sure.
Yeah. Oh, no, and thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And definitely, during this time right now with a lot of Asian hate cases on the rise and everything, and me being Asian and my whole life, imagine that.
Yeah. You didn't convert?
Yeah, I know. Somehow it just happened.
Yeah.
But right. I love, especially in heavier extreme music, when I see people of color, Black, Indigenous folks as well. I love seeing that aspect of it because growing up, I've told this before. I think the first time I saw a band, like a metal band that had like something that looked like me, was Loudness from Japan, and
wow.
I was like, oh, look, there's like people that look like me that play this kind of music that I dig. So this is kind of cool. And
right.
it didn't click with me until I finally saw something because I always like what I just mentioned, I love Priest and Maiden and all these other bands. Mm-hmm. I have nothing against them. Most of my friends are Caucasian, but seeing something like that, it was definitely different because of like, oh,
absolutely.
I can do this, or I can have this kind of future because they're doing it.
Right. Well, representation, people just don't understand how important it is. And that's a huge thing for me, is I definitely want to be that for somebody else, not only as a woman, but as an Asian woman. Like, that's something that I want people to see me and say, like, I can do that too.
Yeah, no, and I think you're going to be doing it because, again, there's already a buzz around you guys. And here I'm up in Seattle and I found out about you, and it's like, dang, I want to talk to these guys because this music is right up my alley. And I think that there's a lot of times people that, if they don't have a chance to know who you are, maybe through this platform, they're now going to know. And I see Steve's who's down in Texas. Hi, Steve. Thanks for joining us. And Chimodoro's saying, again, Japan awaits you guys. So they want to see you over in Japan.
Oh, we're dying to go. We'd love to go to Japan.
Yeah, so that makes two of us. I've never been myself.
Oh, no.
And then I'm Japanese. And
I've never been to the Philippines, so I'm right there with you.
We have that in common then.
Yep.
I'm also curious I said this like 10 minutes ago before we wrap this up, but I do know you need to go in a few minutes. you have such a nice way about you in terms of your energy and how you project yourself. Is that ever a surprise to fans? Like when they saw you live playing on stage, just going fucking nuts, and then they meet you, kind of like, whoa, is this the same person?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say that that I definitely have a hugely like different energy just in person and on stage. And that's something that I do try to like stress a lot is like, don't be afraid to approach us because we're all super, respectfully, of course, because we're all super nice. All of us, we're very friendly. We all have like good intentions. We're not like jerks or anything like that. But whenever you're on stage, you are putting yourself in a vulnerable place, and you are sometimes reliving a lot of past traumas, and so it does come out as a very like aggressive and uncomfortable kind of like demeanor. It's not supposed to be mean, but it's just supposed to be raw. You know what I mean? So anyway.
It definitely comes across like that. And I just kind of prompted another question that you guys mentioned that you had known and had the material, you played the songs, had rehearsed them and all that kind of thing, and you're just ready to go into the studio and bang it out. Did you basically record the backing tracks live then, and then put everything on top of it, or what was that looking like? Because it sounds very live to me, the recording.
Well, so what we do is we the way the guy our recording guy does it, and I couldn't tell you exactly how, but we played it through first. And not all together because it was like COVID and we all didn't really know what was going on. We all went in separately. We kind of like did our part first. So I think like guitar went first and then maybe drums over that. And so by the time that I went, we already had like a backing track for me to go to or to record to. And I sang through the whole song just so that it was kind of like laid out a little bit. And then I went back and I did line by line.
Okay. All right. That's actually even a bit more amazing to me because it doesn't sound like that. It doesn't sound like it was I don't want to say pieced together, but I know from a studio standpoint, I used to work as an audio engineer at one point, that it sounds more like the band went there and blowed like a live band and then it just took those backing tracks and then layered stuff on top of it. But it sounds more like it was more band member by band member.
Well, that's a great compliment. Especially coming from you. You used to be an audio engineer. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm pleasantly surprised to hear how you guys put that together. Mm-hmm. Especially with the type of music you do. Yeah, you want it to be a very live sounding record. You don't want it too polished sounding because then it doesn't fit the music.
Right.
Yeah. I'm jumping all over the place because your stuff is really cool that you're doing.
Thank you.
What else can you say about what's coming up, even though I know there's a question mark about things? So obviously the record's coming out a week from Friday. And is there any kind of virtual record release thing? You're going live on Instagram somewhere or anything else that's coming up to help promote it?
All I can say is, especially on the 23rd, we're going to just have so much stuff coming out on that day. So definitely keep an eye out for Metal Blade's YouTube account, their Instagram account. Keep an eye out for our Instagram as well. We're going to be keeping everybody updated for everything that's happening then. Like I said, it's kind of hard. I'm not really sure exactly what I'm allowed to talk about. But definitely stay tuned. April 23rd is going to be a huge day for us, and it's going to be an all-day thing. So
awesome. There you go, folks. Make sure that you block out April 23rd and
don't make plans. Take off of work.
Well, Crow, it was awesome getting a chance to talk with you, and I hope that somewhere maybe in the summertime or something else that we can reconnect again and kind of see where things are at, especially if the band's going to be looking like to be doing some shows or something else to promote.
Right.
I would love to reconnect with you and then see where things are at that point.
Well, I'll definitely contact you when we're in your area. So
absolutely. I would love to see you guys here in Seattle and watch you tear it up on stage live. I mean, I can't wait for that kind of thing.
Yeah, me too.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time, and everybody.
Thank you.
April 23rd, Capra's full length comes out in transmission, and hopefully I get a chance to see you sooner than later, Crow.
Same to you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this one.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.